Alright, working on a 2001 Nissan Pathfinder. Gonna do a thermostat on it. It evidently had been overheating. She said it'd get on the highway or whatever within 10 minutes. It's running hot. And anyway, it came in on a tow truck. I guess it's been sitting a while. And came in on a tow truck, and I looked at it yesterday for a little bit, and it was a little bit low on coolant, so I added some coolant to it and took it out and drove it, and it never got above. It was under the halfway mark the whole time. And she said within 10 minutes it would overheat. So I actually drove it about, I probably had it out altogether about 35-40 minutes. Took on the highway and went through a drive-through with it and never overheated. So I never saw it leaking anywhere either. So anyway, I'm going to change the thermostat on it and then take it back out today and see what's going on. It's possible just the thermostat was stuck or something like that. I'm not sure. She said as soon as you get on the highway it would start overheating. And like I said, I took it on the highway yesterday, took it pretty far, and it was fine. So we're going to change the thermostat on it and then put it back together and see what happens. On this, you're going to go down here to your lower radiator hose, and it goes into the engine down low. You might be able to do it without taking the fan out and the shroud, but I went ahead and did it. I'm not going to fight that. So what you want to do, I already took it off. I wasn't going to make the video. I decided I better make one, just in case someone has one of these older Pathfinders and wants to know how to change the thermostat. So what I did is took the fan off. You have 4 10mm nuts, and you should be able to just kind of hold the belt and break them loose. And once you get them broke loose, you can just go ahead and take them off. I just used a ratcheting 10mm open end, but like I said, you should be able to just kind of hold the belt with your other hand and break them loose. It shouldn't be that tight. And then you pull the shroud out. You have, I'm assuming, 2 10mm bolts will go in the radiator here. This one, they were gone. The shroud was just kind of flapping, so I'm going to find some bolts to put back in, but I'm assuming yours are probably 10mm. And then you just kind of pull everything up at once. You'll have to move your overflow hose. It's hooked to your shroud, so you want to move that out of the way, unhook it, and then everything should come up. You will have to remove the upper radiator hose out of the way a little bit to get the shroud out. And then once you get that out, you're down to your housing. And what I did on it is I just took the housing off first, and then took the hoses off. And this is the housing. It sits against the engine like this. There's 3 10mm bolts. 1, 2, 3. And then you have a hose that goes here, and a hose that goes. This is a lower radiator hose. Goes here. Take those 2 clamps off. This should pull out. And then here's your thermostat. And it's actually screwed in to the housing here. It won't fall out. It's actually screwed in. Now, I went ahead and got the housing and thermostat because the thermostat was like $14 and the entire housing was like $19 or something like that. So it's only a few dollars more. For only a few dollars more, you get the entire housing, and it came with a gasket. And that's the other thing, the other thermostat, if you buy it separate, a lot of times they don't come with gaskets, so you're almost to the point, a few more dollars and you're at the point of a new housing. So we went ahead and got a new housing for it. We're going to bolt it back in. I might put a little bit of gasket glue on the gasket just to hold it while I install it. And then you're going to check your surfaces on the engine and make sure they're clean. This gasket came off clean, so it's probably pretty clean under there, but we'll double check it anyway before we put this thermostat back on. Alright, so I'm going to put this gasket on the housing. And you can see here, this gasket came with a tacky side, and it has just a little paper covering it up so it doesn't get, keeps it preserved until you use it. So all you're going to do is just peel off this paper, which I just had peeled off, and then so there's no need to use any kind of gasket sealer or anything like that. Sometimes on these, if I don't have the paper on it, I'll actually put just a tiny bit of glue on it just to hold the gasket while you're putting it in place. But there's no need to use any kind of sealer or anything. Just let the gasket do its job, and it'll seal up just fine without any kind of sealer. I see a lot of times when I change these out, guys glob a whole bunch of sealer on these, and it's not necessary. So just tack it on the housing like that, and then we're going to put the 3 bolts in, and I'll get you down there where that's at, and we'll put these 3 10mm bolts in and bolt this back up. Alright, so here we are. You want to follow, if you don't know where it's at, you want to follow your lower radiator hose, and it comes in right here, and then it bolts right to the block, right here with those 3 bolts. On some of the years, they actually have a hose that comes across here that you have to unbolt right here, and then it comes in over here. But they're all pretty much, this is 01, so just follow your lower radiator hose, and that's where it comes out at. So I got 3 bolt star. We're going to torque those down, put those hoses back on. Here's where your fan bolts to, the 4 bolts. And like I said, you can see here I'm turning it by hand, so you can hold that. What I do is just press down on the belt right here kind of hard and break them loose. And then once you get them broke loose, you can rotate that to where you need it to get them loose. So anyway, we're going to torque those 3 bolts down, and then we'll put those hoses on and start putting the fan back in. Alright, so those are 10mm bolts. And just going to go ahead and torque these down. And you want them snug, but you don't want to go nuts on them. I don't know what the exact torque spec is. I'm sure someone's going to ask. Just make sure they're tight, but not super, super tight. This is aluminum. A lot of these people ask what the torque specs are and stuff like this, and if you have a torque wrench, then you probably have access to a service manual. Of course, I do torque things to the proper spec when we're talking about head gaskets and real important stuff like that, but a lot of this comes down to experience. So on this, with the part being aluminum, just get it nice and snug, but not over tightened. And then get your 2 clamps on. This, actually, the little bottom clamp broke, so I have to get a new clamp for that. I'm going to use a regular worm gear clamp, so I'm going to go ahead and tighten that one up, and then we'll start putting this fan and shroud back together. Alright, so we're going to set the shroud and the fan kind of in there together. Because the fan's kind of fat and doesn't like to go in there with the shroud in all the way. So kind of get the shroud set up where you want it, and then slide the fan in, and then kind of slide everything down together. And it always got the steering box over here on the driver's side. Kind of gets caught up on that sometimes. And then your upper radiator hose, it'll get caught up on, especially if you don't remove it all the way like I don't. Once you kind of get it down in where you need to get it, just go ahead and line up the fan. Just kind of get it on there, and then you can go ahead and manipulate your shroud where it needs to go. There's 2 little holders on the bottom. Just go ahead and line those up, and then line it back up. And like I said, she didn't have any bolts on the upper here, so I'm going to have to find some to put in. But once you get it where you need to be, and it's clicked in on the bottom, just go ahead and don't forget you have your overflow hose here. Don't want to get that caught. That clicks into your shroud in a couple different places on here. But once you get it clicked in on the bottom, go ahead and put your 2 bolts in, and then you can get to your fan. So I'm going to get underneath it real quick and make sure it's clicked in on the bottom. And I'm going to go and, well, this is why this side is broke off. So that's probably why they didn't put a bolt in back here on this side. So I'll only be able to put one bolt in. But one's better than nothing. It was just two, and it was kind of just doing this where it was just, that's how it was. So I'll put one in over here. That'll at least keep it off of the engine when it's running. And we'll put that top radiator hose back in. We're almost done. Alright, so you just put the 4 nuts on the fan. And I like to use these, I'm not sponsored by them or anything, but the Pittsburgh little ratcheting 10mm. They have a little cheap set you can get. I think it goes up to 15. And it's perfect for jobs like this. Gets right in there, as you can see here. And just stick it on that nut, go to town on it like you would a regular ratchet. I actually got a set in my carry box that I take with me on road calls, and I have a set here that I use. And they actually work pretty good. I think I broke my 13, or it doesn't work as well as it did at one point. Getting pretty rough with it, but they work really good for jobs like this. This is super tight. Now you can, I'm almost tight here, so to make it easier, I'm just going to go ahead and rotate, press down this nut, and rotate up to the next stud, and put that on. And then when you want to tighten it, just take your hand and push down the belt. Put a lot of tension on the belt right here, and then tighten it down, and that will, the belt will hold it enough to get it where you can get it pretty tight. So that's pretty much it. Same with taking it off. Just get them all loose, and then you can rotate it around, and then use the belt to hold it when you want to get it completely loose. And that's pretty much it. We're just going to fill it up and take it for a ride. I won't show that. I'm pretty sure, like I said, I drove about 30-40 minutes yesterday, and it was fine. So I'm pretty sure it's going to be fine today. Just put the thermostat in as a little insurance policy in case it was sticking or something. It's the only thing I can think of. It doesn't have. I don't think it has a blown head gasket. There's not a lot of pressure in the radiator. I don't see any leaks anywhere. So, and it's got a regular clutch fan on it. Doesn't have an electric fan. So the only thing I can think of at this point is the thermostat. So we'll put that in and see how it goes. But that's pretty much all there is to it. Put the thermostat on a 2001 Nissan Pathfinder. Thanks for watching. And as always, God bless.